Welcome back, everybody, and today we're going to be buttoning up some stuff here on the 350 install on the C10 muscle truck. So what I've got going on right now is I'm going to put the torque converter bolts into the flex plate. Now I had to go shopping for some bolts because the mount for this particular torque converter is very different than the one that I took off. Everything seems to be lining up and fitting as it's supposed to, but you just can't put the, I'll take you up here and show you. See, it's a solid block of steel here, and there's no way to put a nut back behind there when you come through the flex plate. So I will just use some grade 5 bolts, which is all I could find, and I will use some Loctite, and we'll call that good enough for now. It's not going on the track or having any severe duty use at this point. First 500 miles is just going to be putting around basically. So let me get you all up in here. Can you guys see that? Yeah. All right. So I pretty much have this lined up for the bottom 2 bolts. Now what we need to do is check the distance between between the flex plate and the torque converter. So the distance, I believe, is supposed to be between 1/16 and 3/16. So basically, once this torque converter is in, which it is, we need to go up here and see what the distance is. And what I did is I used 2 drill bits, a 1/16 and a 3/16. And I put it into position, and it is just way too far away. You don't want to pull it back out of the transmission too much. So what I need to do is put a shim. And the bolt kit that I bought has the shims in it, but it didn't, the bolts were wrong. So I'm going to put this shim up here and then try and hold it in place and see what kind of distance I have. Well, this one certainly goes in, and that's the minimum distance. So let's make sure that the maximum distance does not fit. And I think the way I'm going to do that is to just slip a bolt through here. Put this on, this shim to hold it in place, and then check. And indeed, it does not go in, but the minimum distance does, just barely. So barely is good enough, right? I'm just gonna set that in there for now, and then what I'm going to do is on your side of the truck, I'll bring you over this way a little more. On your side of the truck, I'm going to put the bolt in with a little dab of don't come out juice. And you know what? I didn't read that real well. That's the blue stuff. I don't want the blue stuff. I want the red stuff. So let me get a tube of the red stuff. So I've got a couple tubes of red, a couple tubes of blue, and we can just open up a new one here. Shake it up a bit. It's supposed to be thick, but let's see. Let's see how it does. I think I need to cut the tip off here. Yep. So I'll do that real quick. All right, yep, that comes right out. Try and get as much of that as possible on this bolt. So we'll put a couple drops of this don't come off juice on here. Put the cap back on so it doesn't leak out. Get our shim, slide that into position the best we can. Huh. That one's not going in real well. Let me check this one. That wasn't threaded. Huh. I wonder if they sent me the wrong thread bolts. And that would be a big problem right now. Huh. Those are the same thread as the kit that I bought with the wrong size bolts. Let's see what a coarse thread does. Damn it. Yep, that's what it is. But I need it a little longer than that. I need 1 inch. I guess that's 1 inch by 20. Let's see if I got some of those. 16. Well, let me check these. I did buy some other 1 inch fasteners, but these may not be the right size. See, this is something I should have checked. Well, it's the same as that. And let's see what this is. This is grade 8. So let's see if that goes in there. Yes, it does. But it appears that it's too long. Huh. So these are 1 inch. I guess I need 3/4, and I'm guessing that's what this is. Yeah. So you know what? These are going to have to work for now. I just so happen to have 3 of them. Alright, this is a 9/16. So what we'll do, we'll take the, where's the bolt with the juice on it? see you. Okay. So we'll wipe this off. And save these for something else. Save these for something else. And we'll use these fasteners let's give this a try. So it looks like 3/4 inch fasteners is what is needed for this. And the large shim. Oh, see, now that one's going to go away. This one is the one that wants to be in there. How much thread am I going to get in there? Not a lot. Well, okay, I am going to be pulling the torque converter towards me, so this just might work. So the torque converter is going to get pulled towards the front of the engine, so that will increase the amount of thread that actually goes into the fastener that's on the torque converter. There's no bolts or there's no nuts welded on. It's a threaded piece of steel that's just welded to the back of the torque converter. Hope that makes sense. These go right in, and since I've got two there now, what I will do is tighten them up a little bit. We'll just go with tightening a little bit at first. And then we'll go around and tighten everything to spec. And the reason I'm doing this now is because I want to put... Now, what I want is my flashlight, which I believe is on the top of the tire. Yep. And I want to see if that fastener came all the way through that threaded piece of steel, which it is, you know, like one thread away from that back of that piece of steel. So when torqued, I think that's where we need to be. So let me snug these up. Those are just snug because I don't want to get this skewed. Now, why, you say, is he able to turn this? Because I've taken the plugs out because on first startup, the plugs need to be removed and the engine cranked for, well, until as long as you get good oil pressure. Then you hook up power to your coil and start it. And that's per the instructions of the manufacturer. Yeah. See, I snugged that up, and I might just need to tap that in there. And it's not going to take a lot of force, it just, I can't reach it. All I'm doing with this is trying to tap the spacer into the right place because my fingers don't go through there. There we go. Thought I was going to have to turn it around and loosen everything up again, which would have been probably the correct way. Remember guys, this is a video on how I do things, not a video on how to do things. Okay, that's snug. But I think I want to try and get a little more than snug. So, let us put a little leverage onto this and try and hold it and not trap my fingers. Okay, it says, when I looked online, depending on who you ask online, between 45 and 65 foot-pounds, which is snug. And let me get my torque wrench. And this has to be turned on in a level position. Okay. Came back around to 12.1 foot-pounds we were using before. I'm going to move this up to 65 and see if we can get there. You know what? I'm going to do it at 45. Okay, 45 foot-pounds. And let's see if that's where we already are. And if that's the case, then we'll move it up to 60. Uh-oh, I touched the buttons. Oh, it went back up to 65. All right, let's just leave it at 65. And see. Nope. I think that's too much. Let's go 45. Let's go back to 45 and not touch the buttons. Now, I know there's a way to hold this from moving. And hopefully I do this without marring a tooth. Okay, that's at least 45 pounds. Probably closer to 50. And we can just bring this back this way a little bit. Too much. Okay. And we can put this back in here. hopefully do this without smacking myself in the face. What are we at? 45. And a skosh, because we know it's between 45 and 60. So we've done this one and this one, so the one at the top needs doing. So let's bring this back around. My biggest fear is catching my fingers in here somewhere. Yeah, that is a legitimate fear. A little bit more. There we go. One more. Almost. There we go. And a couple degrees more. All right. So I'm going to say that's darn close to 50, 55, but it's definitely more than 45 foot-pounds of torque. And I'm going to use my flashlight and just double check these things to see where we are. Yeah, I'm thinking that is the correct size bolt for this application because it comes right to the end of the threads. So we have at least minimum thread. You know, if I were to get something a 1/4 inch longer, well, I have something a 1/4 inch longer and it's too long. So there we go. So after this has run for a short time, I will come back in here, double check these, and maybe consult with Jegs, because Jegs is where I got the transmission and the flex plate. So I've got extra flex plates because first time around I ordered the wrong one. Come on, turn off. There we go. All right, so that's that. Now, let's drop the starter in there. And what I want to do with the starter, since I did clean it, I want to put a dab of grease on that piston. I'll call it a piston. It's actually a shaft that the gear gets thrown out on, and that is what needs to be able to freely slide back and forth. So I'm going to put just a touch, clean this real good first. I'm going to put just a touch of grease on that. And this is high temperature. So when that thing gets thrown out, it should be able to retract. It's been sitting for 1.5 years too, so I cleaned it and now we're putting it back in. So these are the bolts that came out of the old block. And I want to just make sure they fit in the new block, because I have already found a couple of instances where this block is not exactly the same as a stock GM block. When we go to put in the fuel pump, I can show you that. On a GM block, the threads go all the way into the block to where you can put a bolt in finger tight to hold the rod that causes the fuel pump to work while you're installing it, rather than having to push it up and compress and put the bolt in. You know, you need 4 hands, but there's only room for 1. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so just once again, I'll just wipe this off, make sure we're good and clean and there's no dirt or anything that's going to keep this from performing properly. All right. So that's going to hang out up there. See if I can reach a bolt. Put that in. If it doesn't go in finger tight, I'm not putting a ratchet on it because I don't want to strip anything. So let's try the other one. That comes to a point when holding this heavy darn starter up that my arms and my back say, okay, give it a rest, try again in a minute. Now, we're going to do this again. Wipe off these threads. And I want to see if this thread's in here. Yes, it threads in quite nicely. And in here. Yep, threads in real nice. So you just have to be able to hold it in the correct position. The neighbor's getting at it with his chainsaw. Actually, it won't be him, it'll be somebody he's hired. Okay, so try this again. I'm not sure if that's started correctly or not, but it's helping me hold this up. Now, there weren't any shims in this starter when I took it out. So, but that was on a different block as well. So I don't know that I'll need them. But on the other hand, I don't know that I won't. That might be in there. Let me gently put a ratchet on there. Wrong size. Yep, that's going in easily. I think it's just the weight of the starter and it maybe not being exactly square that was making it more than finger tight. see? Now this one will go in by hand, definitely. Definitely, now that we're on the right trajectory here. So, once I've run this for a while, I will be coming back and I will be marking each nut and bolt that I check, and I will check every nut and bolt. I'll mark them with the yellow paint pen because I don't want anything falling apart. So, is there room? Yeah. Is it going to need a shim? It doesn't look like it. But let me see. Let me see if I can move that gear manually without a lot of effort to see if it I don't know, I've never tried to do that before. But you know what? Just looking here, if I look down the teeth, I'm gonna say that's in the right spot. If I put the screwdriver here to the end of the tooth and just elongate it, you know, that looks like it's gonna work. I'm sure there's a more scientific method, like trying it, but we're going to leave it at that for now. I'm going to tighten this up just a little bit more. Yeah, when your elbow pops, you know it's good. Okay. Right. So, while we're under here, the very first thing that was on my list, and I didn't do it yet, because I figured while we have it up in the air, rather than going down the list and up and down and up and down and up and down, I'm going to do what I can underneath here for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the wicks in there. I'm sorry, the wicks filter and the Lucas break-in oil. 30 weight break-in oil from Lucas, which is high zinc. And the instructions that came with the engine said, fill your filter with oil and put it on. Then put the rest of the 5 quarts in the crankcase. So I've had this soaking for a bit, and it has absorbed a bit of the oil. So we will put this filter on now. I've already lubricated the seal. Man, this is like this is like getting somewhere now. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice or not, but I'm totally excited about where we are today. Now, what I did do is I wrote down the date. Why didn't I write down the mileage? Simple. The mileage that's on the odometer right now is not going to change, because my transmission does not have a speedometer gear, and you're not to put one in. One of the things that I want to do is put a set of digital gauges in it that'll have a GPS speedometer. So I'm not concerned about the speedometer hookup. However, does it even hook up? I mean, it'll slip in there, but there is a clamp that goes on there to hold it in, and that transmission didn't come with it. So I'm going to look at my other transmission and see if that clamp is on there. The transmission I took out of this truck. And if not, what I might do, well, I have to do something before I can put oil in the transmission, and I have to put oil in the transmission before first start. I also have to put the drive shaft back in. Now I am going to get another drive shaft because the one I have is old and rusty and crusty. So I am going to get another one. But for now, good enough for now, we'll put the old one back in. Because like I said, we're not getting on it. We're not getting on it. Those Bluetooth gears will they'll just fly right out the back end. The Bluetooth springs. So, use that little screwdriver. There's some real hard, crusty stuff on here. And if I do have that clamp, while I'm here, I'm going to slip it off the other transmission, drop this in, because otherwise I could very well forget that it needs to go on, pour the transmission fluid in, and it will end up all over the floor. So, scrape that somewhat clean. The O-ring still looks good on here. I'm just getting the old crusty stuff off. And I think what I need to do is, since this cable does move, aha, that's the speedometer gear. I'm wondering if I should just leave that out, because there's nothing in here for the gear to ride on. I mean, there's no teeth in there. So we'll take that out. And put just a smidgen of grease on this O-ring, since I've just wiped all the old stuff off. Let's bring you guys over here so you can see. And bring you down a little bit. There we go. Oh, GoPro's nice and hot. All right, so let me bring you over here with the flashlight. There it is. So, if you can see in there, I don't know if you can see in there or not, but there is no speedometer gear, okay? I'm hoping, see, this is the speedometer gear here. That's the speedometer gear, it's a nylon gear, and it fits right in here, and this goes into the transmission. Now, I wonder if that cable that gear drives will slip out if I don't have the gear attached. I don't know. So what I'm going to do today is call JAGS and tell them, look, this is the situation. I called them once before because it seemed like maybe this transmission was used. It had a rear seal in the box that had been taken out with a screwdriver, obviously. But what they said was these are all dyno tested. So A, it's going to have oil in it, and that's why you have leakage into the box. And B, they remove the seal so that you can put your own in. You know, because on the dyno, did it ruin that seal or not? Who knows? So they want you to put a new, fresh seal in there. I'm going to call them and see if it's okay to just put this in without the gear. And if not, I'm going to have them send me not a plug, some sort of something that will fit on there to keep it from leaking. I'm sure there is such a thing. There has to be, because so many people don't run speedometers. What do they do? Just do what I just did? I don't know. I'm going to find out though. All right, so that is not in, that is just on there. We have your nice chrome pan. This oil drain plug appears to be quite tight, but I want to check that again. We have our oil filter in. We have our torque converter bolted up. I think what we're going to do is go up top side and put the oil in the engine, because if there's anything that you can forget, it's not the oil. So, I love this little cart, by the way. That is so handy. Absolutely so handy. When you're working on a project, you put all your stuff in there. You can move it from one side of the project to the other, from under, whatever. Get all my stuff out and roll this out of the way. And what I will do at this point is bring the truck down. I will pour in the rest of the 5 quarts after I've checked to make sure that the oil pan plug is in fact snug. And then we'll come back and we'll do some more fun stuff. Hang in there, guys. Thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. We'll be back in just a minute.